Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everybody. Glenn, Mark, Megan. Whitney, rather than I screw up everybody's introduction, tell us who you are. Tell us something interesting about you.
So I'm Glenn Coates, CEO, founder of Handshake. We're a B2B commerce platform. We help suppliers get their products into retail stores on mobile apps and on the web. Think of it as like, Amazon for B2B. Something interesting about me. Well, when I moved to America, I moved to San Diego, and I didn't know anything about San Diego, but I've been to San Francisco once before, and I guess I'm embarrassed to say that that was literally my thought process. I was like, San Francisco was pretty cool. It's got a sand in the front. And I lived in San Diego. It was not very much like San Francisco.
How do you follow that accent? Mark Jacobs, I'm the SVP of Sales and Customer Success here at the coolest company in the world, TV Insights. For those of you that don't know what we do, we have a software that gathers and aggregates massive amounts of data on private companies, provides it to larger companies that can use it in their strategy innovation groups to determine what the next trends are, which markets to be investing in, who to be concerned with from a competitive perspective, that sort of thing. Great company, and we're doing really well. Great culture. Something interesting about me, I have become addicted to socks. Very colorful socks. And I actually have close to 100 of them right now, which is insane, I think. But we'll keep going.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Megan Berry. I'm the head of product of an early stage startup called Octane AI. And what we do is we help anyone build an audience on Facebook Messenger through bots. So if you want to learn more about bots, we can talk more about that afterwards as well. Before that, I was head of product at Rebel Mouse, which was a SaaS enterprise CMS. And fun fact, I have a shot in each arm today because I went to the doctor and this is actually fun, I'm going to Bali in Singapore this summer. So I have a typhoid vaccine and a Hep A vaccine.
Hey everyone, my name is Whitney Hillier. I'm the VP of Customer Success at Bounce Exchange. Last year we were the fastest growing software company from the Inc. 5000. So here's my shameless plug that we are also hiring across lots of positions. So if you're interested or looking, please talk to me afterwards. And let's see, previous to Bounce Exchange, I spent 4 years at Bitly doing both sales and customer success. So if I talk about my previous life, that's probably what I'm referring to in this context. And let's see, fun fact. I'm currently working on trying to make my dog an Instagram star. So he doesn't actually have an Instagram profile yet, but I'm doing all the research, and I'm not kidding you that I have met with 3 or 4 people that have over 50,000 followers for their dog, and I'm getting all the tips and tricks, and that's my plan.
What's your favorite tip?
Well, this is a really bad tip, but apparently there are these sort of bots that you can buy. This actually is a really good list of things in general. It's kind of the whole concept of reciprocity, right? So there's these bots that go out and like similar profiles to yours, and when they see that you like them, they like your profile back, and that's how lots of people will actually sort of inflate their numbers. But it's sort of fake, and then the bot's doing it, not you. But it's also not, because these people they're real people and everything. So that's me.
What kind of dog?
He's a Yorkie. I'll show you pictures after. Or next time I come back, it'll be set up and you guys can follow it.
Before we start, in the back, how are we on volume? Can you guys hear us all right? Great. So the invite that went out to everybody said team-based selling very kind of innocuously, right? And that can mean a lot of different things. We sort of left it that way on purpose. So I think the first question and the right way to set the stage for the conversation is, when we say team-based selling, What are we talking about? Mark, why don't you kick us off?
Team-based selling. Okay, so I see it as two different types of team-based selling. One is if you take the individual complex sale and you, as a, let's say, an account executive, you're putting a team together of folks that are from different disciplines and gathering a team that can put you in the best position to win that deal. But that's really not what we focus on a lot here. I mean, yeah, we do, but mostly our focus is more around our entire organization selling as a team. So the way that we do it, and it's kind of ingrained in our culture here, that everybody works together to get to the same common goal. So whether it be the content team, we have an incredible analyst and content team here. They're domain experts. What they'll do is they'll work with marketing to get out a lot of research and content so that we can drive a ton of leads. Our AEs and our SDRs work together on named accounts, and they work as a team to go and figure out how they can best attack a particular account. And then once we have an account in motion, it's about bringing in the right resources at the right time. And those right resources could be the same thing I mentioned before with the content. It can be customer success. It can be an executive, but just making sure that you go into the process, bringing your best resources together, gathering a team, and doing everything necessary to win the deal.
Is that how you guys do it, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you expand the definition of team-based selling to include like marketing and all that stuff, at some point that just becomes your go-to-market strategy, right? But yeah, I think like we have a fairly complex solution. We sell to multiple personas in the target organization. It's very technical, and there is a lot of stuff that has to happen to get a deal done for a large organization with Handshake. I think the team part of the sort of breakdown of the team, I kind of think of on two axes. One is like the functional alignment, so it's getting like the technical people talking to their technical people, roles aligned, sales to sales, like all the things that you need to align from a functional perspective. But then there's also the kind of relationship alignment stuff. So like when the deal gets big enough, like who's building the relationship with the CEO, with the CIO, and so there's that kind of dimension to it as well. And someone might play both roles, like you might be the technical lead and linking with the CIO, but you kind of have to think about it on that grid, I think, of covering off all the important parts of that grid.
Awesome. Megan, how does product get into this?
Yeah, I mean, I see like my role as head of product is to make a product that we can sell as much as possible and makes as many customers happy. So it's very important for me to get feedback from sales and to work closely with sales, because ultimately my goal is to make sure our roadmap is aligning with what customers want. And you guys are in the field, and I need to know that. And so in my current role, we're a pretty early stage startup, so we're just at the beginning of that process. But at Rebel Mouse, we had a team of between 10 and 15 salespeople. It was really important for me to get that feedback of like, what are people saying? What are the objections that come up in meetings that you guys hear that I'm not hearing? So that's really important, is I think it goes both ways. It's like, how can I help you? And then how can you help me make the product better?
Awesome. I think that's an interesting point that you should come back around to, is that team-based selling isn't just how does the account executive or the seller move their deal downfield, but how does the organization grow through that participation? What are you seeing so we've got a couple people who are sort of in the customer success part of the equation. Where does success come into that, and how is it different from, say, or maybe it's exactly the same, say how product involves itself in the sales conversation?
Yeah, so look, I think customer success can play like a really integral role in the sales process, right? So I think there's a pre-sale piece to this, in that I think if you bring in customer success at the right time, it can be incredibly advantageous. Both it kind of is, an expert, especially if you bring somebody who works with clients very similar to them, similar verticals, maybe not direct competitors, but similar enough where they can tell stories and bring case studies and things like that. We've also been used as like a strict closing mechanism. they'll have me reach out and say, you know, hey, we really want to schedule that kickoff in LA, but like we don't have a date. So can you tell me like exactly when the contract is going to be signed so that we can schedule the kickoff, right? And that actually works like 75% of the time. I've been amazed at how often that works. So I think there's that piece on the pre-sale side, right? And then I think customer success is also incredibly important in building the customers that are then going to be referenceable during the sale. And potentially people, like we all know how often contacts are leaving companies these days. They're staying for like 2 years and then they're out. And if you build the right customers, like they're going to be your best next prospects, right? So there's a reference piece here and there's a potential new prospect piece as well. And I think customer success is absolutely critical in that.
So, and this will throw out to whoever wants to take it. So how do you do it? How do you actually go about it? Is it just as simple as, hey, everybody get involved when you need to?
I mean, I think that the AE has to be the quarterback and has to make that decision. I mean, it's the AE's call. They know the personalities. They know where the deal's at. I don't think you want. I mean, you always used to say this, Brandon. Like, you don't want the clown car. You know, to just be like fucking free for all. And like, why have we got 6 people on this call? This is crazy. You know, so you want to be very.
I worked for Glenn. Full disclosure.
Yeah. And look at him, remarkably healthy. It's incredible. He's got both limbs. You know.
I had to grow one back.
Yeah, but I think you just have to pick your battles. You know, I mean, the AE really has to own the deal. I don't think team-based selling is an excuse to say like, hey, someone else is going to run my deal for me. You know, I think the best reps know. Exactly when, and it's not even just like which calls you're on, but it's like when you're going to talk. You know, it's like it's the puppet master thing of knowing exactly you're going to say this, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. Yeah, it's not an excuse to just take your hand off the wheel. I think for the rep. You know?
Yeah. No, I was going to say, well, full disclosure, we do roll up with an entourage at some of our meetings. Sometimes, like when I started, I was a little bit like, oh, the CFO must have a heart attack every time we go to a meeting. But that being said, I think it's a lot about bringing the right people at the right time, right? So Mark said that earlier, but I think it's really critical because if you misplay that, right? Like if you bring in the executive, if you bring in whether that's customer success or product or things like that, like there's a little bit of like a card there to be played, and if you play it at the wrong time, whether that's like too early, too late, things like that, like you can really either lengthen the deal cycle or lose the deal because you played the wrong card at the wrong time. And so I think it has to be really strategically thought out as to like when you play some of these people as well.
Yeah, sorry. I'd also just say like help, like if like the one thing I've noticed is when people set me up, like similar to how you were saying, is when people set me up with like, this is what I'm hoping you will bring to this conversation. This is why I think we need you instead of someone else. And here's the context on the client. Like, I feel like I could be a lot more helpful and those deals tend to go better. Then I've also had the situation where someone just like adds a meeting to my calendar last minute and then 2 minutes before they're like, here's this person, go, do your thing. And I'm like, great, it's helpful to not know anything. And I think that's when you have that clown car feeling is like, this is someone else from this company asking you the same question about what you do, and then that feels really bad. Whereas when I can come in and say, I totally understand what you guys are going for, and this is how I think like these products play in, and we could build this new thing for you guys, or this roadmap item makes sense, then that can be super successful.
And there's a couple of things with that also. You mentioned being brought in at the last minute. One other thing that I think is important from an account executive or salesperson's perspective is making sure that you build really good internal relationships, because in that situation where you just got asked to be on a call 30 seconds before the call, you're going to be a lot more likely to jump on that call than if someone has been building an internal relationship with you. The other thing is we're kind of talking about individual calls, but I think it's also important to make sure that in all of these situations that if you are actually building this team, call it a deal team, whatever you want to call it, that's going in there, everybody should know what their roles and responsibilities are. I think the one risk is sort of what Whitney had mentioned before, showing up. The one time that I would say you don't want to use that many resources is you don't want to overwhelm a prospect. If you show up with 6 or 7 people and you have one person there, that doesn't bode so great for you. But the last thing you want to do, and that's the balance you have to find, because the last thing you want to do is not use the resources that are at your disposal to make sure that you run your business.
One of the things that came up there, which I think is worth diving into, is the executive card. how do you know when to use it? How do you know how to use it? How do you know when not to? Just as important, so you're not overusing it.
I think it depends if it's just the executive card.
Sure.
Right? If you're just being like, hey, my CEO wants to talk to you because you guys are both like big shots, and, you know, like, big shots like talking to each other. You know, like if that's what it is, that's not much. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's important that the executive card come with something else. Like, yeah, this is a bigger product, and they want to talk to you about this. By the way, they also like to talk to you about this thing that you wrote. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's my experience, and maybe it's because like Handshake doesn't sell $1 million deals. Like we're sort of in the 5 to kind of lower 6-figure deal range. So we're not doing like straight up hardcore full enterprise stuff. But I've rarely seen that much success from the straight up like, hey, like my CEO wants to talk to you about like, I don't know, just being an executive. Like, you know, like that. I've never seen that go that great. You know?
Where I've seen that go great though is more on things like second voices. We use that here all the time, where an account executive is trying to close some business and they want some more credibility behind some of the things that they're saying. So a second voice might come in and say, listen, I run the sales and customer success team here. I wanted to just tell you how excited we are to bring you on board. We gave you, you're in great hands with so-and-so, but I want to make sure that if you have any questions that I'm available to you as well. So that I've seen that work really well. And then the other time when the executive works well is particularly around both customer success and product. When a customer is a little bit questionable about your product compared to others, being able to bring someone like that in to talk about futures a little bit and where the company is going from a product standpoint.
The other thing I always say, and I think this is like true in any department, but sometimes you need a different person to say the same thing, right? So whether it's like, hey, we can't do this pricing for this reason, right? Or, hey, it works this way, or whatever it is. Like sometimes it's literally just having somebody else say the same thing. There's a lot of head nods, I feel like that's resonating with people. And then the other thing I'll say works really well for us, and to your point, is kind of our CEO will actually, when we bring him in, we actually bring him in for what we call strategy sessions, right? So he's like kind of a zany guy in and of himself. Like, I'm kind of hoping that he's not here, but like he's kind of a zany guy, right? So like if he go, like he's not the guy you're gonna bring to like talk about your PowerPoint slides, like that just would not go well. So we bring him in for strategy sessions, and he comes and he just like whiteboards with clients and prospects. Like they love it, right? Like he's like all over the place and whatever. Then they come out and like, we love Ryan, and it's like I don't even know what Ryan just said. It doesn't matter because they love him, right? So that's actually been really successful for us as well. But it also goes to, it's not just him going and being like, oh, I'm the CEO, I want to talk to you, right? It's like actually him providing value to the prospects.
Right. So that's the unique insight, right? Like there's something there beyond the title.
Just like tactically, what are you doing on whiteboards? Like for all the salespeople out here who are going to go to their CEO tomorrow and say, hey, you got to do this thing because I'm going to win some deals if you do it.
Yeah. I mean, look, like I think a lot of CEOs, especially like founders and CEOs, like they started this company for a reason, right? They have a passion about whatever it is. So for us, it's like our CEO, like I consider one of like the best digital marketers like in New York, if not like in the country, right? And so he's talking to people like. So he was the head of marketing for Bonobos for a long time. He's talking to people who are basically in that role, right? So they want to hear his story, but they also want to be able to like talk about marketing stuff, right? And so as much as you train a salesperson, it doesn't be somebody who's been in marketing for 15 years and has done the job that they're sitting in. So being able to just literally sit up there and talk about like the challenges of marketers today and like really talk about like, this is how I view marketing and this is what I think is like the next big thing. Like I think it's just insanely valuable to them, even if we don't talk about massive change at all. Which usually happens. I mean, like, we usually don't talk about that at all.
Awesome. Mark, talk a little bit about, it's not just, what we might be in danger of is a lot of salespeople thinking, have this person say this thing, have this person say this thing, have this person say this thing. But you talked about building the relationships internally and actually, before you look outward and say, hey, here's my team, go build it. Real tactically, how?
I just think it's just about, from a culture standpoint, being, not going to the people that you may be asking for favors later, going to them just regularly, having coffee with them, talking, understanding what they're doing, having conversations, keeping them abreast of what their team has been doing, keeping them abreast of what's going on in other opportunities that we're working on. So that's how to me, that's how you build internal relationships cross-departmentally. So that, and you're not doing it so that you can pull that person in when you need to. It's just part of, building that relationship that you can then have the comfort to ask for that favor when you need it. But across the board, if you're choosing the people that you want to bring in and put in the right place, I mean, sometimes it's obvious based off of the skill set or the, in our case, when we bring in an analyst or a domain expert, they're experts on the domain that we're selling into.
I mean, I can add from the other side of it, like salespeople who have been successful, like building a relationship with me, are thinking about the fact that I need feedback on the product and I want to know the pulse of the market. And so it's more about, getting coffee every once in a while, or like doing a call every once in a while, and like, here's what I'm hearing out there. Like, what do you think about this? Like, what's coming up in the roadmap? And it gives the salesperson a chance to be ahead of what we're doing next, but also me a chance to learn more from what our prospects are thinking. And so I think you want to go into the relationship building thinking about how you can help the other person.
Think about on the topic of building teams. So one thing that's interesting, and this was before my time at Bounce Change, but customer success was brought into the sales process so much that we actually took like 2 of our best CSMs and spun them into into a separate team that's now been fairly built out. That's called the client strategy team, but really what they are is it's basically their job to build strategy for sales presentations and go to the sales meetings, sort of as that person, because it was performing so well in helping the salespeople be successful that we actually built an entire team around it, so that they weren't just going to random CSMs and pulling them into meetings. So, and we've moved some great people over there over the years.
I think there's something in there that's really interesting. How, on the other side, or maybe it's for the salespeople, and maybe it's for the product people and the CS people, how do you manage the fact that in almost all instances, those people's job is not directly related to closing business?
I mean, if you're in a company that's doing enterprise sales, everyone's job is directly related to closing business.
I'll go back to what I said before. It has to be ingrained in the culture. It has to be part of everybody having the same mission, and a win by a sales rep is a win for the entire company. Being very transparent about what our goals are, our KPIs are, sharing those goals and where we are on those goals every month with the entire company. That gets people motivated. It gets people wanting to be competitive and helping to win however they can because they want. And then the last thing is obviously you better do a really good job of when the glory comes, sharing it from the perspective of both public and private, giving people the respect they deserve and for all the hard work they do.
So I think you guys have effectively sold everybody on why and how and what. So let's turn it around completely. Inviting a lot of people into your deal is inviting a lot of liability into your deal. So how do you manage the fact that, kind of going back to what I said before, most of those people who you're asking to come into your deal have things to do relative to their own function. But you're probably going to, as an account executive, have to assign tasks and delegate responsibility. How does a salesperson approach that?
I think it's a form of just being good at project management. It's literally saying this thing's going to happen on this date. Here's all the things that need to happen for it. Here's the prep meetings we need to have. Here's the dry runs we need to have. It's about being a good project manager, and not just functionally, I can put the pieces together and I can see the dates. But it's also, to your point, Brandon, about knowing that this person has a whole other job, and so. When I ask them to do this thing, I'm going to do the maximum amount of prep work that I can and be absolutely crystal clear with what they need to do, so that by the time they get there, the unique knowledge that they have or skill that they have, they put that into the work. But it's clear that I've been respectful of their time and I've done the prep to make it so that all they're doing is showing up and offering their expertise, not figuring out what the hell's going on in this deal and having to join the dots. So I think it's just about really good project management and being like really specific and clear about what you need from people and when, far enough in advance.
This is super tactical, but we have Slack channels for everything, like any situation like this that's going on, where everybody who has hands in the deal to some degree is sort of like invited to the Slack channel. It's a lot to keep track of. But in terms of like all notifications are sort of set so that like, hey, you don't really need to respond unless you're mentioned. And like now my whole train ride in and train ride home is like catching up on all the little different deal Slack channels. And you know, and then it's like, oh, if I need something from Whitney, like I'm gonna specifically set it to notify her. But it allows me to keep up with things even after I've like entered or exited a deal, without sort of being like, you know, a sort of another meeting on my calendar that I have to attend.
I also love the point that you brought up about making sure that you take on as much as you can, rather than throw everything on someone else's plate. And I think one other thing you can do with that, is to each time you run into that situation, is to do a little bit more, so that you're learning from what the other person cross-departmentally is doing, and that shows, and that effort will be rewarded back to you.
So, do salespeople share the wealth? They bring a bunch of people into the deal. Those people help them win the deal.
How are you defining what?
Cash. I'll let you guys define it. There's lots of ways that organizations tend to celebrate salespeople. Sure, money's one of them. Ringing bells, another one. How are ways that salespeople can go about actually sharing in that victory?
I think it's important to give props and to thank people, like you said, either publicly or privately, can work for the work they put in. I mean, I think in terms of literal wealth, that's just set up organizationally, and every organization is different, and probably you guys can't necessarily change that, but you could definitely thank someone and buy them a coffee and like build that relationship, and that makes a difference.
Awesome. Megan, I want to shift gears a little bit, because I would imagine that at least once in your career, some salesperson has come to you and said, hey, we've got a call, it's in 20 minutes, they just need this thing, just tell them we can build it.
Okay, that's usually my problem.
Yeah, that's usually a shared thing. Yeah, I mean, I think that the shared goal is I want to make sure as many deals close as possible with customers that end up staying customers. And so the thing, just to convince me we should say yes to a thing, is 20 minutes before, I'm definitely not going to say yes to a call in 20 minutes unless we already had it. That's just for sure. But if we take time ahead of time and you talk about, I've talked to a bunch of clients, they all have this need. I've been hearing this from other people on the team. What do you think about this? Is it in the roadmap? Try to make a case for why it makes sense for the company. And ultimately, that's my goal. And so then you can maybe convince me that we should change the roadmap and it should happen. But I'd say it's not in your best interest as salespeople either to change the roadmap in a way that maybe gets one deal closed but sacrifices a feature that would have sold 30 deals if we had released that instead.
As those of you who are on the CS side, the product side, when sometimes you do have to bear the brunt of maybe a bad deal or a deal that comes with a lot of challenges, how do you create this circle of feedback where salespeople understand this is what happened, and this is the deal we took, we chose to take it, here's the results for it?
There's been some angry emails that I've gotten, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, look, I think there always has to be sort of an open dialogue between teams, and I think we sort of subscribe to the radical candor sort of philosophy at Bounce Exchange, and I think a lot of it is just sort of going back to that person, and you can probably I just start dude, come on, really, right? But I think it also goes back to you at the same time, if you have a good salesperson, they don't want to be doing that, right? And I think, to some degree, in an ideal world, they're also comped on that client staying for a long period of time. So selling something or overselling, or we call it being overzealous, if they're overzealous salespeople, it's going to hurt them in the long run, both in the company as well as with the clients. And I think the right salespeople understand that.
I think there's kind of an onus there on both product and the services group though to make it like I don't think it's always black and white. Like can you do the thing? Right? It's not like, hey, do you have this blue button? Yes or no? Like sometimes it's like, hey, can you like make this workflow happen? Blah 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 blah. And like enterprise software is usually pretty complex, pretty customizable, can do pretty twisted and turn in a few directions. And is it like a 5-degree turn or a 75-degree turn? And sometimes it's not that easy to know as an AE. Hey, this feature, like some scripting thing you've got, or some like data customization thing you've got, is this going to work in kind of a like, if I squint at it, it kind of works way, or is this going to work in a like straight down the fairway, it was built to do this kind of thing, like go get 'em kind of way. And so I think like products in terms of features, and then services group in terms of like implementations that they've done before, like there's an education onus there on like, here's stuff that works, here's what's good. If you see this, we're good. If you see stuff like this went terribly, like wrong. And so I think like just expecting AEs to do that all in their head, I think is, or even SEs sometimes, is sometimes asking a lot, depending on how complex the product is. But
I'll also add, like, I think the majority of the time it's not malicious, right? It's not somebody doing it on purpose. To your point, it's a complicated solution, and I think people are all trying their best. And that's what I remind my team a lot of times when they'll be handed a client, like, oh my gosh, what did we sell, right? It's like, hey, let's all assume the best of intentions, right? Make sure that they are getting that feedback, make sure that they are, like, learning from it, because, especially with just rapidly growing companies, you have a lot of newer reps, right? They're trying to get up to speed as fast as possible, and mistakes are going to be made, right? So it's more important how we recover from them. And we oftentimes too, like, we will actually get the sales rep back involved with the deal. If there's sort of a mistake during the sales process or something sort of overpromised, we'll have them sort of come back in and have them sort of talk it through with the client versus us doing it or doing it together.
Glenn, you mentioned before functional alignment, right? And you just mentioned SE, and it starts to open up the conversation to all of the people who can be helpful in any given opportunity. How do you, is it always the case that you just say, they're bringing a product person, we bring a product person. They're bringing a technical person, we bring a technical person. How do you figure out when the clown car is too full?
I mean, it's just less is more. I think like you'll know when you need it. I think reps know like, hey, I'm going to be in this, I'm going to have this conversation. This person wants to talk about this thing, and I know I can't do it, so I'm going to go get the person that I know that. I don't think there's a thing of like, I'm bringing 3 people. They're bringing 3 people. Well, I'm going to have the 3 people. They're not going to have people me. I mean, it's not that. It's just like you want to make sure that you've got the smallest group that can answer all the questions competently. Yeah, because I don't know, like in at least with Handshake, every sale for me goes in 2 phases. One is like, do I believe in the value of this solution? That's usually the easier of the 2. Then the second one is like, do I believe this company can deliver on the value that I want to get out of this solution? And that second phase is an exercise in building credibility. But you want to, I always believe in doing that with the least number of people you can, but satisfying the constraint that they have to believe that you know what you're talking about. As long as you actually do know what you're talking about, that's also a constraint.
I'll also add that when I have sometimes been brought into a deal where the conversation is just they're bringing someone technical and it's scary for me, and so I want you to join the call. And that I definitely understand that feeling, but it tends not to go as successfully as maybe doing some more background, saying, can you give us someone, what is this person going to want to know, or something, so we as a team, me going into it, can feel prepped, that can help the call be successful, instead of they're bringing a scary person, so I want to bring our scary person.
But again, that goes to does the AE even know the question to ask? Right? So if they want to do the prep and say, cool, you're bringing this IT guy, here are 6 questions that I want to know if this guy's into. Does the AE even know what those 6 questions are? Has the solutions group or whoever or the product armed them with here are the 6 things you really need to ask this guy? So there's kind of an onus both ways.
Mark, how can salespeople in particular start to build up their understanding of those first 6 questions across disciplines, so that they are going to CS and to product and engineering and marketing better.
I'll go back to what I said before. It's you know, if you're a newer sales rep and you're bringing in a lot of resources, just making sure that you're understanding and learning from that, learning not only from the more senior account executives that you're working with, but also cross departmentally, so that you're not required to you're not requiring as much from the other resources every single time. And by listening and paying attention to it, you should be able to each time do a better job of understanding the types of questions that they're going to be asking, the expert's going to be asking. But I would say, in playing devil's advocate of not showing up with enough, I would play devil's advocate and say there's you don't get any extra credit for closing a deal with less people, and if you lose a deal and you didn't use all the resources that were given to you, then you've got some explaining to do. So I would say err on the side of using them, not from a cost perspective, but make sure that you're responsible with it. But I would never suggest that people should worry too much about bringing in resources at the right time.
Awesome.
I also think it's a little bit on us to make sure that we're prepping the salespeople for what they need, right? So at Bitly, what we were finding, a lot of the reasons they would bring customer success in was not to talk about onboarding or things like that. It was more that they wanted us to be storytellers, right? They wanted somebody who could come in and talk about other clients in that vertical that looked like them, who had seen success. And so we spent a lot of time actually making vertical, and it was as simple as an Excel doc, right? But it was okay, here's this vertical, here's 3 success stories, one that's mid-market, one that's enterprise, one that's super strategic, right? So it sort of gave the salespeople story, sort of tidbit stories that they could pull from, because that was the big thing they needed from us. And then we did training with them to make sure they felt confident talking about those stories, and they loved it, right? And they used it all the time. And so I think sometimes, especially as we get pulled into more things, it's also hey, how can we scale this better, and how can we, one, to save ourselves and our team's time, but also how can we take these materials and give them back to the salespeople so that they can use them as well.
I want to ask one very tactical question, and then we'll get ready to turn things over to questions in the audience. Going back to the point of prep, right? What does that actually look like? Tact. Is it an email? Is it written out on a piece of paper and handed out to people? Is it a meeting? All of the above? Is it something different?
I just like getting the email. Just here's what we need. Here's what each different person's doing. I don't really care about the format. It's usually done as an email, but I don't think the format's as important as, again, to Mark's point, how much of the homework the AE has tried to do. Have they really stretched as far as they is it clear that they've gone as far as they could have with the prep, and then how far in advance. The number one thing that I've seen people get pissed off about is just the 2 hours before, I need this, and there's no faster way to become the person that people don't want to work with. And I've seen SEs and AEs go cats and dogs over this. Is just that last minute thing. No one likes to show up unprepared or look unprofessional, and when you put someone in that position, the chance that they're going to come running to help you the next time gets pretty low. So I think it's just more about time than format.
And I've seen some great ones here from the A's here when they're creating it, and it's about, I think, giving a really brief history of the conversations that you've had, if they're a client already, especially talking about what other groups within the organization are using our platform. But then also talking about the people that we're going to be talking to. It's easy enough to put a link to their LinkedIn profile so that you can at least know the person that you're talking to. I don't want to have to, if I'm going to go on a call, I'm going to look on the calendar invite and go look up the person anyway. So if an AE is giving me the LinkedIn link, that I can just go right into it. That saves me time. I feel good about it. And then at the end, just what our goals are for the call.
Awesome. I like to always kind of put out the 3 things that I'm hearing most robustly, and they're all kind of tied to empathy. The first one is prep, right? Sellers, do your work. Make sure that you're handing over a very well thought out plan for what everybody's going to do, who everybody is. make sure that you're sharing the wealth, whether it's saying thank you, taking somebody out for coffee, understanding that people who are helping you with your deals, it's not necessarily the primary goal. And then the third one is learn from it. Each time, continue to get better and do that circle a little bit better each time as we go through. Before we turn it over to questions in the audience, last question for me, for everybody. What is someone, something, a book, a blog that you're reading that you would recommend everybody check out? Okay, let's sort of blank.
Just because it's recent, I don't know how many people read the Bezos Day One thing the other day. If you haven't read it, just Google it. Fucking awesome. Just, Day 2 drives me nuts. Just read it. It's about, I guess what it's about staying hungry and staying lean as an organization, even when you get to the scale of Amazon. It's about being like customer obsessed and like getting really close to your customers as sort of the guiding light of the company. But the main thing that I took from the article was an aversion to proxies, right? And when that company scales and the process becomes the thing instead of the thing is the thing. And I think the example that he gives is like, it's not that uncommon to hear a junior leader in a company say, well, follow the process, results sucked, but and like no one wants to work in that company. I mean, I don't want to work in that company. So, that's the one that kind of jumped in.
So Mark Birch over here writes some really great stuff, which I follow and read all the time. But the book that I read recently, which was amazing, and actually one of my colleagues over here recommended to me, SAP's CEO, Bill McDermott, wrote a book. I think it's called Winning Dream. Awesome book. Read it if you're in sales at all. It's motivating. It gives you a really good background on what you need to do to be successful. I really enjoyed it.
One of my friends started a blog recently on Medium. I think it's called Unfounded, but it's about kind of like being in an early stage startup and like what goes wrong with sales and what goes wrong with being a CEO and like all this stuff around it. And it's also really fun to read.
I'm gonna go to a podcast. If you guys haven't listened to the How They Built It podcast, that's really good. We're starting to get a lot of people to listen to that and have discussions around it for different companies. So I think it's really cool. The other thing, it's not just because I'm here, but if you don't read the CV Insights newsletter, it's also really good. You should read that. So it's true.
Questions? Yeah.
I guess sort of turn it around when you have been sold to and a salesperson's turned up with a CEO, the sales engineer. What are some of the practices you've seen, the way they've worked, that have really impressed you and you'd recommend all of us to emulate? And what are the things that really pissed you off and you'd tell us never ever to do, ever?
I feel bad when it's clear that there's someone in the room who has like no role. Like, like when there's that AE, and I'm like, are you running this deal, or is this guy running the deal, or like there's only like you're doing nothing. I don't know what you're doing. So yeah, I think when team selling gets to the point where there's someone on the team who is literally doing nothing except showing up and maybe potentially getting the commission at the end of it, that is. I'm almost just like, I feel bad for that person. I'm like, dude, you could be doing so many other things right now. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel bad for that dude.
I'll say one for me that's become a real pet peeve recently is whenever salespeople reach out to me, like I always try to like get back to them and like, because I've run sales teams before and like there's nothing worse than being on like core sales development teams and being like, this is my third or fourth email with somebody and they all tend to follow a standard format, right? So I tend to say like, hey guys, like not the right time or not the right person or whatever it is. When a sales rep or an SDR, like I feel like the right response to that is like, okay, cool, like can I maybe follow up in 6 months, see if things have changed, right? But like when they don't get it and they try to tell you like 100 times why, like actually you should talk to them right then, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna respond to you anymore, right? It's like, I felt like I was sort of like, the concept of the second best answer is no. It's like, I was trying to be helpful here, and I don't know, but it, like sort of that level sort of drives me a little crazy.
I mean, I guess I'll find the thing that is my pet peeve if someone's selling me is that if they pass me to someone else and then I have the same conversation with that person. So it's like, here, I'm gonna act like, because some companies have like a set of questions you need to know about your customers, and it's kind of how you dive into helping them. It's like how you prescribe things depends on the company size and this and that. And if that information didn't get passed, it just like sucks. I'm just like, why, you're so wasting my time. And so that's probably my pet peeve.
So we're talking about like team solution selling, but there's like also the other side. There's like team solution buying, and based on like what you just said, like how would you avoid like having the same conversation over and over? For example, usually one person approaches you, they want a demo, they want to understand the product. How would you like navigate up to the decision maker as a team, like not to have to do that, because we all know it's sort of a waste of time, but it happens all the time.
You're saying in terms of like, as a team selling, if there's like 3 layers to our organization, how do you not do the same call 3 times?
More like the client side, like how would you approach to avoid having the same conversation with like multiple people within the same organization?
So is it on one call or throughout the process?
Throughout the process.
Throughout the process. So in that same situation, getting passed to somebody who's asking the same questions to that sales rep who got asked on an earlier call, so the salesperson is putting himself in the same conversation over.
Right. So I guess there's 2 sides. It's like if I'm like potentially buying a product, and there's multiple people in your organization, like that's about information passing. Just like if I'm going to join a deal call, I want to know everything about the organization that we know, so I don't ask dumb questions, and I'm not that person. If you're trying to sell an organization that has multiple layers to improve the product, I don't know. I mean, I feel like you probably can't avoid having the conversation multiple times. I feel like that's part of selling the deal, but I don't know, maybe.
I think it also depends on who it is that you're speaking to. Is it someone's bosses and their bosses, or is it different people within the organization? Because where I've seen it very successful, particularly selling into IT, is where you have a sales engineer that is focusing on working with the users, and they're telling the exact same story, but the sales rep is maybe building a relationship with the business people or the executive, and they're constantly talking to different layers and different levels of people, but telling the exact same story. So I don't really have an answer for how you would avoid having that same conversation over and over again, but I think it's just part of selling. It's, say it 3 times better than saying it once.
Yeah.
Great. First off, thank you so much for the panel. Really appreciate it. We've talked a little bit about resources. A lot of us come from smaller companies. So team-based selling equals asking people for their time, which is, of course, everyone has limited resources. In managing that, would you say that having executive direction for you, for product, for client success, that being part of sales, being a part of these conversations, is that non-negotiable? And is that important? Or does it just come back to, again, having those personal relationships with the salespeople?
I mean, I think certainly, like, if we're talking about a big deal and you need product help as a salesperson, like, I don't have the option to just be like, fuck you. Like definitely not. It is actually part of a head of product or like a head of customer success job that helps sales. Like it absolutely is. I think the question is like, is this person going to go above and beyond for you or not? And is this person then going to understand that one time you actually are time strapped and like you have to give them something last minute and they're going to hustle to make it happen. And I think that's where relationship building makes a difference. It's like when something goes wrong, they're going to be like right there with you and helping you because you built a relationship. But I think in terms of like the stuff you need, like if you have a head of product who's just like not telling you what you need, like that is a different organizational problem.
I think it's a little.
If you need the rule, that like head of product has to come to calls, like there's a deeper cultural problem down there, like.
I was gonna say, I think it's a little bit of both, right? I think they're like, look, we had to spin off a whole team separately because it was happening so often, but also because it was so successful, right? But that being said, I also think that some of the most successful salespeople actually have amazing relationships on the CS side. And I've also seen it come back to really, really help the salespeople in that when somebody has a client who like leaves and goes to another company, they'll like go nudge their favorite salesperson and be like, hey, I'm gonna send you an intro to this person. Like I think they'll definitely take the call or whatever. And like I've seen customer success reps give salespeople layups that were like one call closes because they like them. And we had a thing at Bitly where it was like, hey, this doesn't have to go through the queue. Like if you earn that referral or somebody leaves, like you can go do it. You usually get a pretty good lunch out of it. So.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for being on the panel. I just wanted to go a little more, I guess, forward thinking with this question. I think it's so on point that you're actually on the panel being from a bot company. So my question is this, and I wouldn't recommend using a bot to build your page because you might fool 90% of the people on social, but the 10% you actually want to engage with, they're going to know you're using a bot. So my question becomes, we're talking about team-based selling on a human level, but as more and more bots become part of the team, I guess, what is everyone's perspective in bringing on that part of the team, I guess, the bots, the chat bots, the other pieces of technology that are going to become, as more of the sales process becomes more automated, what is your plan for kind of incorporating the non-human element into your sales process?
It's a good question. I would guess it's less applicable the more enterprise the sale. Like cost per lead is going to drive me to not want to have a bot anywhere near a legit deal, but like for running like an SMB business that's high volume, I can definitely see like initial stages of qualification, getting funneled into like the first 5 questions going into there, like a market response rep would do today. Maybe I'm not up to speed. I haven't seen any tech that's like been proven well to do that yet, but I can see that for a high volume, like 4-figure deal business.
I mean, I don't think like bots replace the sales process, but I think right now like bots on Facebook Messenger, bots on different platforms can help in sort of the top of the funnel marketing. When a customer like messages your business on Facebook Messenger, like what happens? For a lot of businesses, maybe it takes a few days for anyone to respond, but no one's responding. So that's where bots can be helpful, is places where maybe you don't have a good human answer, so you can get an initial answer and then funnel them into a place where you do have a good sort of human answer, or request a demo or something like that.
I think less about bots and more about like machine learning and artificial intelligence and what that can do for sales. I think sales produces so much data that's not necessarily like always used in the right way. And I think as sales leaders, we use that to like forecast, right? Which is, a completely imperfect process that probably frustrates everyone in this room. And I think, there's technologies out there who are supposed to be better at sort of predicting what your revenue is going to be in a given quarter without me like playing 18 rounds of telephone with the sales reps. But I don't think anything's there yet. But I do see that as being like a big technological improvement to the sales process, like if and when we can get there.
We have time for 1 or 2 more. Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious to know like a story that you had where the deal went great, you closed a good deal. Like, what did the sales rep do that really pushed you over the line as far as working with the team? And then an example of something that went wrong and why.
I mean, I think I've definitely seen a number of deals go really well where I felt like what was like why our solution would help the customer was really clear, and like what the customer problem was and why our product was going to help, and maybe even if it's like a tweak on our product that I have to make sure gets built, but like why that's going to really solve the customer problem. And that generally goes really well. I think what tends to go not well is, and sometimes it happens just when someone's new or something, but they're just like, the client asked for a red button there. Can we do it? And it's like, why do they want it? And like, if you don't understand the whys behind client requests, then like, usually that doesn't go well. Because then, you know, we don't know that we're actually solving their problem. We just know like one person at that company wants a red button.
One thing I've seen go not well, like a common pitfall, or at least one that I've seen sink certain deals, is holding back the card too long. Of like, I'm going to hold back the head of product card, I'm going to hold back the CTO card, I'm going to hold back the CEO card. You know, I think deals are won and lost really early. You know, and if that relationship gets built by, you know, with that person who's trusted and is credible early, I think sometimes I've seen reps want to hold back that card because they're like, no, I'm going to do this later, I really need it. But like, you need it at the beginning to get them like seeing you as their trusted advisor in that evaluation, rather than, you know, trying to like come in at the end and slam it down. So, but you know, you can go the wrong way, and like if you're calling the CEO every day on every deal, that's also a problem. So it's hard to know what to do. But you know,
Here, I would say the majority of our deals are going through this exact process. So I can name any customer that we close, and it's gone through a really good team-based sale. As far as where it can go wrong, I think when, and I'll just put this, you know, on the account executive, where they fall into the trap of relying on everyone else as opposed to them taking ownership and making sure that stuff's getting done, project managing, and also just not doing the work necessary to make sure that the deal goes through, and that's because they think that it's being done by other people on the team.
I think it's an important point. Team-based selling is not about completely divesting yourself of responsibility for the deal. One more question. Steve?
Yeah, how do you train people who not done team-based selling with your organization? Anyone want to take that? Or
Yeah.
maybe you don't either.
No, that's not true. Well, a big portion of our account executives here and continue to be are people who've been here as SDRs, so they're getting promoted into the role. So they were already working sort of in that, doing almost all the same stuff that they're going to be doing now in terms of the building the relationship, just flipping it a little bit. Bringing people in, it's definitely a little bit more difficult, but I think during the interview process, you have to understand that they have that relationship building, internal cultural type of thing. We also are fortunate enough here to have a great sales trainer, sales enabling person, and that's part of what we have to do is understand how to work together as a team. It's just part of what we do in terms of it's ingrained in our culture here, so we have to work to make sure that people are up to speed on that.
I think the biggest challenge is training them to do it right? Especially when you have a new rep that comes in, like, and if you tell them you can rely on these other people, like, especially early on, I think they tend to rely potentially too much. And it's teaching them, like, how do you prep for the call? How do you make sure you're sending out, like, the information with plenty of time to spare, like, those kind of things. And I think the more you can sort of at least help guide people and templatize them to some degree, like, at least at the beginning, is really valuable. Because then, at least for me, I know that with new reps, I may have to speak more than I do with some of the seasoned reps, but at least I'm getting all the information because they'll like actually fill out the form, right, and say like, okay, Whitney, here's the information. The seasoned reps don't do it, but they know what information you sort of need. So at least it sort of helps from that perspective.
We had something at my previous company that makes the salespeople found helpful, from what I understood, was that occasionally, like, salespeople would share, like, do like a presentation of like the life cycle of a successful deal, like a specific one. And so that was kind of like just internal in sales, like their own team training. Is some, you know, reps that are doing really well would share some of like how the deal went and which calls happened when and who was on them and what were the concerns and how they overcame those concerns. And so that was useful, just like the team training each other.
Awesome. Glenn, Mark, Megan, Whitney, thank you so much.